Theories of learning, part 3. Now in this video will be now if you haven't watched my last two videos about theories of learning part 1 and part 2, you might be able to see a black pop-up on the upper part of your screen about the theory of learning part 2 video. You can click on it and you will get redirected. You will get redirected to the end of the description. There are all the two videos. I'll give you those two videos in the bottom of the description, so you can just open the description, scroll down, and you will see those two videos, part 1 and part 2. I would recommend you to watch those first. I would recommend you to watch part 1 first, then part 2, and then this, because if you don't watch part 1 and part 2, you won't understand what I'm trying to say here. Because these four things, such as unconditioned stimulus, conditioned stimulus, unconditioned response, and conditioned response, it is actually mentioned in the last video, in which we discuss about the experiment, the famous experiment conducted by Ivan Pavlov. It was about the about a dog. So I would recommend you to watch the two videos first and then come to this video. Now let's get into this video. Unconditioned stimulus. A stimulus that can produce response unconditionally and naturally whenever it is presented. For example, now let's read the first point again. A stimulus that what is unconditional stimulus? It is a stimulus that can produce response unconditionally and naturally whenever it is presented. Now, what does that mean? For example, it gives you an example. Cutting up an onion can make you cry. It can, right? You cannot. It happens naturally. It cannot like. It doesn't like whenever you cut onion, you cry or your eyes become watery. It is natural. You cannot stop it. You cannot think that okay, I don't want my eyes to be watery, and then they won't be. It happens naturally, and it happens whenever you cut the onions. It is not something which you can stop. Or pollen from flower can make you sneeze. Here, onion and pollen are two examples of UCS. Conditioned stimulus. A stimulus that was initially neutral in nature, it was not capable of producing any response. Later, with the repeated pairing with UCS, it becomes able to predict. UCS is the short form of unconditioned stimulus, which we just saw. It becomes able to predict predicting a UCS, and thus could affect the response originally meant for UCS only. Now, this particular topic, what does it say is that a stimulus that was initially neutral in nature, it was not capable of producing any response. Now, if you have watched my last video about the experiment, if you have watched it, uh, the first thing which came to your mind after reading this first point, a stimulus that was initially neutral in nature, it was not capable of producing any response, and all of the later with repeated pairing with UCS, it becomes able to predicting a UCS, and thus could affect the response originally meant for UCS only. Now, after hearing that the first thought that might come to your mind is the last video, the experiment we talked about. If you haven't watched it, I would recommend you to watch it, because if you watch it, you would understand this topic. Unconditional response. Response for which you do not need any previous learning, which occurs automatically without any condition. As discussed already, crying while cutting an onion and sneezing are the examples of UCR. Unconditional response. The response for which, now let's read it again. Response for which we do not need any previous learning, which occurs automatically without any condition. Now, as discussed earlier, I gave you example of cutting an onion, your eyes become watery, and because of pollen, you sneeze. These are things which happen automatically without any conditions. So these are examples of these are crying and sneezing, these are examples of unconditioned response. And I guess one is remaining, conditioned response. The response we give to a conditioned stimulus because of some experience is known as conditioned response. It is a very short topic. So as you know, as I told you in the last video, we will be discussing all these four terms in a little bit of depth, because in a little bit of depth because they are not that big, actually they are easy to understand. Now I'll see you in the next video. But before, I'll give you some time to take the screenshot. Now I'll see you guys in the next video. And as always I say you, as I always recommend you to subscribe to the channel and on the bell icon, so you don't miss out any videos and stay notified. Also, if you love the video, like the video as well. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, if you want to leave a like, you can leave a like.